إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Then we continue today, inshallah, with the explanation of usool Sunnah of Imām Ahmad bin Muhammad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, the Imam of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, who died in 241 after the Hijrah. So today we'll make the final discussion regarding some aspects of the life of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. And this is, as I recall, part 3 of his life. So we reach today, and we'll discuss today briefly, the trial of the Quran, or that which is connected to the issue of Khalqul Quran. And this was really a huge fitna, and in fact a turning point with respect to the defense of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah from the ideas and the ideologies of the Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyyah. The issue of the trial of the Quran revolves around the discussion of the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we believe as Muslims that the Quran is kalamullah. The Quran, it is the speech of Allah. Likewise, we believe that it is ghayru makhluq, that it is not created. The Quran, it is the speech of Allah. The Quran is the speech of Allah, and it is not created. Why? Because kalam and speech is from the attributes of Allah. And that which is from the attributes of Allah is not created. And since the Quran was spoken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He spoke it to Jibreel alayhi salam with words and letters and with a voice that Jibreel heard, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke. And Allah spoke previously also to the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. So this is the kalam of Allah, and the Quran is the kalam of Allah. So the Jahmiyyah came along because they believe that the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are created, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have names and attributes. And the Mu'tazila, likewise, that they deny the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they came with this entry point through which they wish to turn the whole of the ummah upon the ideology and the doctrines of the Jahmiyyah. And we'll come to that inshallah in usool Sunnah itself and its discussion as one of the points of Qaaidah with regard to the kalam of Allah. So there's no need to go into detail now, since we are talking about the life of Imam Ahmad. So this was a huge fitna in the time of Imam Ahmad. And the trial, or the mihna, it lasted from 218 after the Hijrah up until 233, which spans, in essence, a portion of the life of Imam Ahmad. So Imam Ahmad, of course, was alive. So from 1218 to 233. And that was through the era of some of the caliphs of that era, some of the khulafa, or the rulers of that time, who were influenced by the Mu'tazila, and they entered into this fitna. So the rulers and the caliphs, or the khulafa, were drawn into this ideology that the Quran is created. Because the aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah is that the Quran is not created. It is the speech of Allah, not created. So the Mu'tazila came along and they said, no, the Quran is created, because that would lead, of course, to the rest of the ideology of the Mu'tazila. The Quran is created, the Quran is the kalam of Allah, so the speech of Allah is created, the speech is an attribute of Allah, so the attribute of Allah is created. Therefore, the rest of the attributes of Allah, likewise, are not ascribable to Allah except as a creation of Allah. So therefore, they wish to deny the attributes of Allah completely. And this was the ideology of the Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyyah. So they were drawn in by the heads of the Mu'tazila, meaning the rulers. From the heads of the Mu'tazila, such as Bishr bin Ghiyath al-Marisi, who died in 218 after the Hijrah. This Bishr bin Ghiyath, he was from the al-Marisi, he was from the heads of the Mu'tazila. And he spread this ideology of the Mu'tazila far and wide. As I mentioned, he died in 218. His father was a Yahudi. His father was a Jew who embraced Islam. And Bishr, in his early days, he studied with Abu Yusuf al-Qadi, who was the student of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And he narrated hadith from Hammad bin Salama rahimahullah, and also from Sufyan bin Uyayna, who died in 198. So he had some connection with ilm. And he had known the scholars and met them, and some of the greater of them, like Sufyan bin Uyayna rahimahullah, who of course Imam Ahmad narrated from. Then, after sitting with these scholars, he became affected and infected by the ideology of the Mu'tazila. Thereafter, he called to the Aqidah of the Mu'tazila, and the prime matter that he focused around, especially with respect to the rulers, was the subject of the Quran being created. So he called to that for 40 years of his life. 40 years, up until he died in 218. Then, in that time, before he died, he was able, and those who were upon his ideology, that they were able to convince Ma'mun, who was the Caliph, Khalifa al-Ma'mun, who also died in the same year as Bishr bin Ghiyath al-Marisi. So he managed to infiltrate the circle of the Caliph. And he got close to al-Ma'mun, the Khalifa. And he convinced him. And he convinced him to begin the Mihna, or the Inquisition of the Quran being created. So from the scholars, when they realized and they knew what Bishr was calling to, they started to refute him and refute those who were upon that ideology. But by that time, some of the rulers, and especially al-Ma'mun, that he got affected by the ideas of the Mu'tazila. So from the most famous refutations against Bishr al-Marisi is that which was authored by Uthman bin Sa'id ad-Darimi rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in 280 after the Hijrah. And he has a tremendous refutation of Bishr al-Marisi, which is entitled Naqdu Uthman bin Sa'id al-Marisi al-Jahmi al-Anid, which is a tremendous critique and refutation upon, as he mentioned, al-Marisi al-Jahmi, Marisi the Jahmi al-Anid, the stubborn, repugnant, obstinate Jahmi Bishr al-Marisi. That was what his book was entitled. So the trials, they began during the time of al-Ma'mun, shortly before he died. And he was the son of the righteous Caliph Harun al-Rashid rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in 193 after the Hijrah. So he died, and he was of course from the righteous Khulafa, from the pious ones, a man of Sunnah, Harun al-Rashid. So Harun al-Rashid died in 193. Then his son al-Ma'mun became the Caliph from 193 up until 218. So shortly before he died, he began the trials. And then those trials, they continued. After he died in 218, and then his successor was Al-Mu'tasim, who died in 227. And Al-Mu'tasim was the one who tortured and punished Imam Ahmad the most. Then it passed to his son, Al-Wathiq, who died in 232. And he continued the trials with the issue of Khalqul Quran. So they continued so they began with Al-Ma'mun, then they moved on after he died, then Al-Mu'tasim, then after Al-Mu'tasim, Al-Wathiq. And Al-Wathiq, who was the son of Al-Mu'tasim, died in 232. And then it ceased during the reign of Al-Mutawakkil. Al-Mutawakkil, who died in 246, 4 years or 5 years after Imam Ahmad, that he was convinced by the Sunnah, and he returned the power and the strength to Ahlul Hadith, the scholars of Hadith and Sunnah and Salafiyya. And he rewarded Imam Ahmad. He rewarded Imam Ahmad, and he protected him, and he defended him, and he would seek his counsel, and he would seek his advice, and he protected the students of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal after Imam Ahmad passed away. So he aided the Sunnah, and he punished the innovators who sought to harm Imam Ahmad and the scholars of the Aqidah al-Sahiha, of the correct Aqidah. Salih bin Imam Ahmad, and he was the son of course, Imam Ahmad, Salih, the son of Imam Ahmad, he said, when the people were put to trial, and this was, of course, in the time of Al-Ma'mun, he said, then the people were put to trial, and those who refused to consent were threatened with imprisonment. So all of them consented, meaning that when they were threatened, everyone, especially the figureheads, that they were questioned, the scholars, the teachers, the A'immah, the Imams of the Masajid, that they were questioned and they were put to trial. And the question was simple: what do you say about the Quran? If they said the Quran is Kalam Allah, غير مخلوق, that the Quran is the speech of Allah, not created, they were punished, imprisoned, beaten, expelled, or any number of punishments that the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila, that they had convinced the rulers to inflict upon the righteous of the people of Hadith and Sunnah. So Salih, the son of Imam Ahmad, said, so the people were put to trial, and those who refused to consent and agree to say that the Quran is created, that they were threatened. So all of them consented, all of them agreed, except for 4. My father, meaning Imam Ahmad, Muhammad ibn Nuh, Al-Qawariri, and Hassan bin Hamad Sajjada. These were the 4 that refused to give in. So they held on to the Aqidah of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. He said, then eventually the last 2, they consented, they gave in. So that only left my father and Muhammad ibn Nuh. And they remained in prison for some days. Then the order came from Al-Ma'mun that they were to be brought to him in chains, both of them, because they were the only 2 left now. Abbas ad-Duri, he said that I heard Ja'far al-Ambari rahimahullah say that I crossed the Euphrates River to meet Imam Ahmad. And I said to him, today you are the Imam who the people they follow. So by Allah, if you consent to the saying that the Quran is created, then all of the people, they will consent following you. But if you refuse, then many of the people will refuse alongside you, meaning that they will take strength from Imam Ahmad. So even if he kills you, if that man kills you, referring to Al-Ma'mun, the Khalifa, even if he doesn't kill you, you will still die, and death is certain. So fear Allah and don't give in. So Imam Ahmad, upon hearing these words of Ja'far al-Ambari, he began to weep. And he said, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. He said, Ya Aba Ja'far, repeat those words to me. So he said, I repeated them to him, and he kept saying, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Imam Ahmed said, Naam, I did not see anyone, this is Imam Ahmed, he said, I did not see anyone alongside his young age and his knowledge who better stood firmly for Allah's sake than Muhammad ibn Nuh. And I hope that his actions were sealed with good when he died. One day he said to me, Ya Abu Abdullah, oh Abu Abdullah, referring to Imam Ahmed's kunya, oh Abu Abdullah, for Allah, you are not the same as me. You are a man who is followed. The people stretch their necks towards you to see what you will do. So fear Allah and be firm for His sake. Then Imam Ahmed said, Muhammad ibn Nuh, he died. And I buried him. I prayed for him. I prayed janazah over him. And I buried him. And this was after they were taken and ordered by the ruler, Al-Ma'mun, to be brought to him. So he died upon the journey. So how many people did that leave? One. Just Imam Ahmed. Salih, the son of Imam Ahmed, he said that my father was arrested, chained and imprisoned in the general prison population. And he would lead the prayer in his chains. Then in Ramadan, in the year of 2019, he was moved to the house of the governor of Baghdad, Ishaq bin Ibrahim. And that was 14 months after the death of Ma'mun. What happened was that Imam Ahmed, he supplicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he not be brought in front of the Caliph, Al-Ma'mun. So as he was reaching Baghdad to Al-Ma'mun, Ma'mun died. Imam Ahmed never met him. So when he reached, Ma'mun was dead. So then he was put in prison. And he was placed in prison and he remained there for 14 months after the death of Ma'mun. Hanbal, he said, Imam Ahmed was imprisoned in a stable in Baghdad. He was severely restricted in his imprisonment and he fell ill in Ramadan. Then he was moved to the general prison and he remained in prison for about 30 months. We used to come to him whilst he was in prison and read he read the book Al-Irja to me, a refutation of the Murji'ah. He read that book to me and I saw him lead the prayer whilst in chains. Salih bin Imam Ahmed, he said that my father, Imam Ahmed, he said, I was taken out and placed upon a riding beast whilst I was still in my chains. And there was no one to hold me. So on more than one occasion, I nearly fell off the riding beast upon my face due to the weight of the chains. Then eventually I was brought to the palace of Al-Mu'tasim because he was the Khalifa after Al-Ma'mun. So I was brought to the palace of the Khalifa Al-Mu'tasim and I was placed in a room. Then I was placed in a separate building and then the door was locked upon me and it was the middle of the night and there was not even a candle, so I couldn't see what was around me. And I wanted to make wudu so I could pray. So I reached out my hands in the dark and I found a container of water and a basin. So I made wudu and I prayed. Then in the morning, I took out the drawstring from my trousers. And then I tied my chains so I could carry them. And I secured my trousers. Then a messenger of Al-Mu'tasim came and took me by my arm and he entered me upon the Khalifa Al-Mu'tasim whilst I was still holding up the chains with the drawstring, with my trousers tied. In that gathering, my brothers and sisters, was the chief of the innovators of that time. After Bishr had died, the Mu'tazili, who the ruler appointed as the Qadi, he was appointed as the chief judge, and that was Ahmed bin Ibn Abi Du'ad. And he eventually died 2 years before Imam Ahmed in the year 239, Ibn Abi Du'ad. And a large number of his companions were around him. And they started to refute and debate with Imam Ahmed. And they started to incite, Al-Mu'tasim was watching them. And they started to incite him against Imam Ahmed. So Saleh, the son of Imam Ahmed, he said, Ibn Abi Du'ad was staring angrily at my father. And my father said, when one of them would speak, I would refute him. And then another would speak, and I would refute him. So when they came, I would refute him, one by one. Then when one of them was cut off, Ibn Abi Du'ad would butt in and say, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, by Allah, this Ahmed, he's astray. He's an innovator, leading others astray. And they continued to attack Imam Ahmed one after the other. So Imam Ahmed said, they would say such evil things and use them as a proof against me that my heart cannot retain them, nor can my tongue be brought to repeat what they said. They openly rejected the narrations, and I did not imagine that they were upon this amount of misguidance until I heard it from them. They raised their voices against me and shouted, saying, this Mukhalif, referring to Imam Ahmed, they called him the Mukhalif, the opposer, that he says such and such and he says such and such. And then they said, when I would refute them, they would say, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, look how he is resembling Allah to the creation. Muhammad bin Ibrahim al-Bushanji said, some of our companions narrated to me that Ibn Abi Du'ad tried to speak to Imam Ahmed, but Imam Ahmed would not speak to him, and he would not turn to him. So the Khalifa Mu'tasim said, O Abu Abdullah, will you not speak to Ibn Abi Du'ad? So Imam Ahmed said, I do not know him to be from the people of knowledge, such that I should speak to him. Saleh said that Imam Ahmed kept saying, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, give me something from the book of Allah or from the Sunnah of Allah's Messenger, so I may speak according to it. So his challenge was simple. Give me something from Quran and Sunnah. I don't want to hear this falsafa. I don't want to hear this rhetoric and this kalam. I don't want to hear the ideas of Jahm. I don't want to hear the ideas of Bishr. Give me something from the Quran and Hadith, just like I have given you from the Quran and Hadith. But Imam Ahmed, every time he gave them an answer, they would not accept it from him. And they kept turning to the Caliph, Al-Mu'tasim. Al-Bushanji continued by saying that Ibn Abi Du'ad said to Imam Ahmed, he said to him, the Amir al-Mu'mineen has sworn that he will lash you over and over again, and then he will throw you into a place where you will not see the sun again. But if you consent, he will free you with his own hands. And Imam Ahmed refused, and he would not change, and he would not alter. So they would debate with Imam Ahmed in the court of the Caliph. They would demean him, threaten him, insult him and humiliate him. Then they would throw him into his cell. And in the night time, they would still not let him rest. They would go to him and awaken him in his cell and send another group to debate with him. And they would keep him hungry and thirsty. Then in the daytime, they would bring him out of his cell and they would repeat the process again. Al-Bushanji said, rahimahullah, then when the gathering became prolonged, Mu'tasim called to Imam Ahmed And he pulled him to one side and he said, "Woe to you, O Ahmed! Consent to what I say, so I may free you with my own hands." So Imam Ahmed would reply as he replied before, "Give me something from the Quran and Sunnah, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, O leader of the faithful. Give me something from the Quran and Sunnah." So then those around the Caliph, in the court of the Caliph from the Mu'tazila, that they would curse me. Imam Ahmed said, they would curse me. And they would say, "Seize him and drag him." So the Caliph, Al-Mu'tasim, when the issue became to him and he became angry, he said, Imam Ahmed said, he began to curse me himself. And then he said, "Yes, seize him, drag him, and rip off his outer garment." So I was dragged and my outer garment was removed. Then Al-Mu'tasim sat upon his chair and he said, "Bring out the flogging posts and the whips." So the posts were brought out and my arms were stretched, and someone behind me said, "Seize the two pommels of the frame and hold them tightly." He said, I didn't understand what was being said. And so they pulled my arms up until they became dislocated from their sockets. Al-Bushanji said, when Al-Mu'tasim saw his entourage tying Imam Ahmed to the flogging posts, and he saw how Imam Ahmed remained resolute, Al-Mu'tasim himself felt like relenting, just to let him go. And it was then that Ibn Abi Duwad started inciting Al-Mu'tasim again, and he provoked him to continue with the lashing. So Salih, the son of Imam Ahmed, said that my father said, each of the punishers would come forward and lash me twice. And Al-Mu'tasim, at that stage, who had become angry, said, "Lash him severely. May Allah cut off your hand." Then they would move aside and another would step forward and then he would lash me twice. And each time Mu'tasim would say, "Lash him harder and lash him severely. May Allah cut off your hand." Then after they had given me 17 severe lashes, Al-Mu'tasim came up to me and he said, "Oh Ahmed, why are you killing yourself? By Allah, I feel sorry for you." Then one of the Caliph's men poked, Imam Ahmed said, he poked me with the hilt of his sword. And he said, "You want to get the better of all of these people?" And another one of them, he said, "O Amir al-Mu'mineen, I will personally take responsibility for his blood, so kill him." So Imam Ahmed said that they continued to whip me with such severity until I lost consciousness. When I came around and the chains had been removed from me, a man who had been present said, "We threw you down upon your face, and then we threw a rug or a mat on your back, and then we trampled upon your body." But Imam Ahmed said, I wasn't aware of it because I was unconscious. They brought me gruel and they said, "Drink it and vomit if you want." So Imam Ahmed said, "I will not break my fast," because he was fasting. Saleh said, his son, he said, "Then when my father was left alone and they let him go and he was allowed to return home, he had remained in prison for somewhere in the region of 28 months. From the time that he was taken up until the time that he was lashed and then he was released, 28 months. One of the two men who was alongside him said, "O son of my brother, may Allah have mercy upon Abu Abdullah," upon Imam Ahmed, "for by Allah, I have never seen anyone like him." Never seen anyone like Imam Ahmed. Hanbal said that Imam Ahmed rahimahullah said, "I became unconscious a number of times. And when the lashing stopped, I would come around. When I became limp and dropped, and when the lashing stopped, I came around. When I became limp and I dropped, the lashing was halted. And this happened a number of times. I heard Al-Mu'tasim say to Ibn Abi Duwad, I fear that I have earned a great sin for what I am doing to this man. So Ibn Abi Duwad replied, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, by Allah, this man Ahmed, he's a kafir and a mushrik. He has committed shirk in more ways than one. And he continued to speak ill until he dissuaded Al-Mu'tasim from releasing me. Imam Ahmed said, from him releasing me. But Ibn Abi Dawood and Ishaq bin Ibrahim, they would not leave it at that. They would not allow Al-Mu'tasim to release me or to show me any sympathy. So any time Al-Mu'tasim relented and felt sorry, because he realized what he's doing to a man of Sunnah, a man of Hadith, a man that the people looked up to, a man of piety and righteousness, a man who none of them, with all of the people, not a single one of them could deal with Imam Ahmed. So every time Al-Mu'tasim, he realized this isn't a normal man. Look how many people are trying to refute him and not a single one of them is able to encounter him. Then we beat him and we punish him and still he doesn't relent. So there must be something with the man. So every time Al-Mu'tasim felt something in his heart for Imam Ahmed, Ibn Abi Duwad and those who were with him from the innovators, they would turn the ruler against him again, making him believe that Ahmed is on his own. Look at us. Look at our numbers. Ibn Abi Duwad was the Qadi. He was the chief judge. So then Al-Mu'tasim would fall into doubt again and they would continue beating Imam Ahmed. Abu al-Fadl Saleh said, eventually he was released. And that was after the death of Al-Mu'tasim. After Al-Mu'tasim, there was Al-Wathiq. And then after that, there was Al-Mutawakkil. So eventually he was released. And he was allowed to go home. And he was severely wounded. So they took him into the cellar. Then a surgeon who specialized in wounds and their treatment was brought to his house. And he said, the surgeon, he said, I have seen men who have received 1,000 lashes, but I have never seen a case as bad as this one. Imam Ahmed's face had been struck more than once. He had to remain flat upon his face, upon his front, for as long as Allah willed, due to the wounds in his back. The man said to him, there is some torn and hanging flesh which I must cut from your back. So he brought an iron tool like tongs, and they would hold the flesh of Imam Ahmed and the surgeon would cut it with a knife. And still Imam Ahmed bore all of that. And he would only raise his voice, they would only hear his voice when he would glorify Allah and praise Allah. So after that, he was cured. However, he continued to feel the pain in the various places in his body, and the marks of the lashing were clearly visible upon his back up until he died. Rahimahullah ta'ala. That is the Imam of Ahlus Sunnah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And it is the likes of these, my brothers and sisters, regarding whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ الْجَنَّةِ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Indeed, those who said that our Lord is Allah, and then they remained steadfast upon that, there will be no fear upon them, nor will they grieve. These are the companions of paradise, abiding eternally therein as a reward for what they used to do. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make Imam Ahmad from them. So those who remain steadfast, they are tried, my brothers and sisters, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said that those who are tried most severely in the cause of Allah are the prophets. Then those who resemble them, then those who resemble them. Hanbal said that I heard Imam Ahmad say, everyone who spoke against me, I have pardoned them. Everyone who spoke against me, I have forgiven them, except for an innovator, and I have even pardoned al-Mu'tasim. He forgave them, but he would not forgive the innovators. If they did not repent, he would not forgive them. He said, so I forgive everyone who harmed me, meaning all those who lashed me, following the orders of al-Mu'tasim, I forgive them. But I will not forgive the innovators, the likes of Ibn Abi Duad. He would not forgive them. He said, even I'll forgive al-Mu'tasim. Why? Because al-Mu'tasim was affected and influenced by these Mu'tazila. So today, my brothers and sisters, those who take the example of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, and they want to follow the example of Imam Ahmad, and they want to be steadfast, like Imam Ahmad was steadfast, and they want to follow the path of Imam Ahmad and not compromise the deen of Allah, you find them being accused of being harsh. This is what you find. They are mutashaddidun. They are ghullat. That's what they accuse the Salafis of. So anyone who stands for the haqq, anyone who stands for the methodology and the manhaj of Ahlul Sunnah and the aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah, following in the path of the likes of Imam Ahmad, they are accused of being mutashaddidun. Ya akhi, this is harsh, this is severe. Let the people do what they want to do. Don't refute, don't oppose. This is what you hear from the people. They say about the Salafis, look at them. They think they are incarnations of Imam Ahmad. And you hear this. I've actually heard this with my own ears. They think they are living in Baghdad in the 3rd century, mocking the Salafis. Why? Because the Salafis are steadfast. They will not accept the bid'ah of Ikhwan al-Muslimin or Jamaat al-Tabligh or the Quburis or the Ash'aris. And they will refute them, and they will oppose them, and they will establish the truth, and they will teach the books of Aqeedah, like Aqeedatul Wasitiyya of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and al-Hamawiyya, Tadmuriyya. And they will teach the books of the early Salaf, like Imam Ahmad's Usool al-Sunnah, al-Sunnah of al-Muzani, al-Sunnah of Ibn Abi Asim. So when the Salafi learns those books and he acts upon those writings and he acts in accordance to the Sunnah and that which the Sahaba were upon, that the adversaries accuse them of being mutashaddidun, ghullat, extremists. So what would they say about Imam Ahmad? What would they say about Imam Ahmad? Yes, the Salafis follow the example of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and they follow the example of the likes of Imam al-Barbahari, and they follow the example of the likes of al-Khallal and al-Marrudhi, and they follow the example of the likes of Ibn al-Mubarak and Fudayl ibn Iyad. And they don't want you to follow those examples. They want you to follow the example of Al-Hassan al-Banna and al-Mawdudi and Sayyid Qutb and Anwar al-Awlaki and Abu Musab al-Zarqawi and Usama bin Laden. Or the followers, they want you to follow the example of Muhammad Ilyas al-Kandahlawi, the founder of Ikhwan of Jamaat al-Tabligh. These are the examples they want you to follow. And they want you to have a disconnect. And they want to disconnect you and separate you from the likes of those great Imams of the Salaf. Yahya bin Ma'in himself said, he himself said in that narration that we mentioned earlier, we're not able to be like Imam Ahmad, because not everyone is like Imam Ahmad. Not everyone can stand like he stood. So likewise, my brothers and my sisters, if you are not able to be like Imam Ahmad, because not everyone can stand like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq on the day of Riddah, on the day of apostasy, the way that great Sahabi, the Khalifa, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Khalifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Not everyone is able to stand like Abu Bakr. Not everyone is able to stand like Fudayl ibn Iyad. Not everyone is able to be like Imam Malik and suffer punishment. Not everyone is able to be like Ahmad ibn Hanbal or Barbahari or Ibn Taymiyyah or Ibn al-Qayyim. It's true. That's why Yahya bin Ma'in said what he said. We're not able to be like Ahmad because Yahya bin Ma'in consented. Great Imam of the Sunnah. But he feared that they would kill him or imprison him or punish him. So he consented. So they let him go. So that's why he said, we're not able to be like Ahmad. So likewise, if you're not able to be like Ahmad, then be like Yahya. What's Yahya? Yahya would not allow anyone to speak against Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He said, we're not able to be like him. I was afraid of the sword. I was afraid of the whip. So I consented. So be like Yahya. If you're afraid of the sword and the whip, then you have an excuse. But who is afraid of the sword and the whip today that they go and sit in the gatherings of Ahlul Bidah and the Hizbiyun? Who puts a sword to your neck and tells you to go and sit with Ikhwan al-Muslimin and the Hizbis and the Turathis and Ahlul Bid'ah, the Mumayyi'ah and the Mukhadhilin? Who puts a sword to your neck and tells you to go and sit in the gatherings of Al-Maghrib? No one. So you do it for free. No one compels you. In fact, half the time you pay to be misguided. Because these people don't give you knowledge for free. You want to go and sit with Al-Maghrib? It is not like Yahya bin Ma'in. When the likes of Ali al-Madini and Yahya bin Ma'in were threatened. Yahya bin Ma'in especially. So he was afraid that they're going to behead him or whip him. So he consented. That is not comparable to a person who makes a bank transfer to Al-Maghrib and goes and sits with them for a weekend and said, well, you know, I had to. What, you had to pay them? To be misguided? It's not even free anymore. So likewise, my brothers, if you're not able to be like Ahmed, then don't close the door upon the one who tries to be like him. If you can't be like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, then don't close the door upon the one who wants to be like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. If you can't be like Umar, and you can't be like Uthman, you can't be like Abu Hurraira, you can't be like Abdullah ibn Umar, in their firmness upon the Sunnah. You, O sister, who can't be like Aisha, or Salama, or Sulaim, then don't close the door on those who want to be like them. People want to strive to be upon that path. And when they do that, they are insulted and they are reviled. And if a person chooses to follow the way of the Salaf, of those great Imams like Al-Lalaka'i and Ibn Battah and Ibn Abi Dawood al-Sijistani, the son of the great Imam Abu Dawood, and they want to be like Al-Marrudhi, and they want to be like Al-Muzani, and they want to be like Al-Shafi'i, and they want to be like Imam Malik in their steadfastness upon the Sunnah. They don't stand in their way. And don't belittle them and don't humiliate them. Because they were Imams of the Sunnah. And they were the inheritors of the Prophets. So if a man pursues that path of the Salaf, and he strives and he's sincere, then Allah will aid him in that. Just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Let there arise out of you a group inviting to all that is good, enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. And it is they who are the successful. So who is this group? If it is not the Imams of the Sunnah first and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions with regard to this particular body of Muslims, beginning with the Sahaba and then those who follow their way. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. You are the best nation raised up for mankind. You enjoin what is good and you forbid what is evil, and you believe in Allah. That's what Imam Ahmad was standing for. That's what Abu Bakr as-Siddiq stood for on the day of Ridda. That's what Umar stood for when he gave Sabir a beating that he deserved. That's what Ali stood for when he fought the Khawarij. This is what Uthman stood for when they besieged and encircled his home and he challenged them from the roof. As an 83-year-old man, he stood and challenged them with the Sunnah. That was Uthman radiallahu anhu. And they could not argue with him, so they ended up killing him. These were the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises those who follow their path and stood like they stood in generation after generation. And in the time of Ahmad, it was Ahmad. In the time of Ibn Taymiyyah, it was him. In the time of Barbahari, it was him. In the time of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, it was him. In the time of Bin Baz, it was him, and Al-Albani, and Muqbil, and Ibn Uthaymeen. And in this time, it is Fawzan, and it is Rabi', and it is Ubaid, and it is Al-Luhaydan. If you can't be like them, then don't belittle them. And if you cannot support them, then at least do not attack them. If you do not want to be like Ahmed, and you cannot be like Ahmed because not everyone can, and you cannot be like Barbahari because not everyone can, and you cannot be like Ibn Taymiyyah because not everyone can, Allah chooses them. And that's why their names, they shine through history. And they stand out through history. Because they are the ones that are raised such that throughout history their names remain. Like Bukhari, like Muslim, like Abu Dawood, like Ibn Battah, like Ibn Qudama. Why do their names remain? Because they remained resolute and steadfast. Ibn Abdul Wahhab, why does his name remain? Because he stood and he did not compromise the deen of Allah. If you cannot be like them, which is acceptable, then make dua for them and aid them. And if you cannot aid them, then do not attack them, because you are attacking the awliya of Allah. Because these are the men who gave up the dunya for the sake of Allah. The ummah swore at them and humiliated them and insulted them and reviled them, and they did not change. Ahmed did not change. They beat him till the skin on his back was falling off, that they had to cut it off and slice it off his back to stop the infection and to stop the harm. But he was not willing to compromise. When he heard Yahya bin Ma'in compromised and consented, he said, I don't want to talk to him again. That's what Imam Ahmed said. I don't want to talk to him again. When he heard Ali al-Madini, an Imam of the Sunnah, he said, he signed, I don't want to talk to him again. So what? Imam Ahmed is mutashaddid. Ghulu. From the Ghullat. He said, I don't want to speak to Yahya bin Ma'in. Why? He said he should not have consented. So Yahya bin Ma'in tried to visit him. Eventually he got in. Imam Ahmed saw him and he refused to talk to him. Anytime Yahya's talking, Ahmed wouldn't reply. Turn away, don't want to reply. And he kept saying, the hadith of Ammar bin Yasir. The hadith of Ammar bin Yasir. Imam Ahmed would not talk to him. So he left. He left. And then he sat at the doorstep outside the house of Imam Ahmed. Yahya bin Ma'in is an Imam, a scholar of Hadith, a scholar of Jarh wa Ta'deel from the great A'immah of Islam. Imam Ahmad said, I don't want to talk to him. He should not have consented. What's the hadith of Ammar bin Yasir? Ammar bin Yasir was tortured by the mushrikeen, and they wanted him to revile Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He wouldn't do it. They tortured him up until the pain got so much that he reviled Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Then he went to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam weeping. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, they tortured me and they beat me up until I reviled you. He said, how was your heart? He said, mutma'in bil iman. It was at ease with iman in Allah. He said, in that case, if they call you to do it again, then do it again. That was the hadith. So Yahya bin Ma'in came to Imam Ahmad. And he said, the hadith of Ammar bin Yasir, that's my excuse for consenting. That it is allowed to give in if I fall into what Ammar fell into. Ahmad didn't respond. Didn't respond. Why? Because he didn't regard that as an evidence in his favor. So he went outside and he sat on the doorstep. A few moments later, the son of Imam Ahmad came out, Salih or Abdullah, can't remember which. He said, what did your father say? He said, my father said, the hadith of Ammar is not approved for you. He said, why? He said, because Ammar consented after he was beaten. You consented before you were beaten. He said, Ahmad has finished me. Ahmad has finished me. Mutashaddid, too harsh. Is that what we're going to say? He was too harsh on Yahya. Because that's what they say. It's true. We can't all be like Ahmad. Yahya bin Ma'in couldn't be like Ahmad. We can't all be like Abu Bakr. It's not possible. Because Allah chooses whom He wills throughout history. But if you cannot be like them, then do not revile those who wish to be like them. So Yahya bin Ma'in said what he said with respect to Imam Ahmad. As for saying, we'll leave that because time doesn't allow. So in every age and era, my brothers and sisters, it is the likes of these Imams, A'immah, that are considered to be the illuminaries of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah. In the time of Imam Ahmad, or after the time of Imam Ahmad, the term Hanabila, the Hanbalis, was used to intend Ahlus Sunnah, Ahlul Hadith. They used to say, this is a Hanbali, meaning he's like Ahmad. After the death of Imam Ahmad, they would say that about people. If they saw a person of Hadith and Sunnah, he's a Hanbali. What did they intend by that? This man is upon Sunnah. So to the point that even if a person was not upon the fiqh of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, but he adhered to the Sunnah and he defended the Sunnah, they would still call him a Hanbali. So even if he wasn't upon the fiqh, because normally if you're following the madhab of Imam Ahmad, it is the fiqh that they ascribe you to. He's upon the fiqh of Imam Ahmad, the fiqh of Malik, or the fiqh of Shafi, or the fiqh of Abu Hanifa rahimahumullah jami'an. But here, even if a Maliki or a Shafi'i came defending the Sunnah and Salafiyah and the Aqeedah, they would say he's a Hanbali. Not intending by that he's not Maliki in fiqh. What they mean is, he is talking like Ahmad talks. This is what they used to do. And that is because, my brothers and sisters, that these scholars, as the Prophet ﷺ said, they are the inheritors of the Prophets. And the Prophets leave neither dinar nor dirham. What they leave is knowledge. And whomsoever takes it has taken an abundant treasure. O kama qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Imam Ahmad is without doubt from the inheritors of the Prophets. For this reason, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, the Hanabila are known as the people who least of all fall into innovations. Out of all of the madhabs, the least of the madhabs that fall into innovation are the Hanabila. Let us finish, inshallah, in the next 3 pages. It might take a few minutes, but bear patiently, because I don't want to come back next week and do a part 4 on the life of Imam Ahmed. Inshallah, let's seal it today, bi-idhnillah. Having love for the A'immah, from this discussion regarding Imam Ahmed, and really it's been brief, even though it's been the 3rd session, still brief really, because as one of the Salafis said, you could fill volumes regarding Imam Ahmed. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah said that indeed the angels are the guardians of the heavens, and Ahlul Hadith are the guardians of the earth. So Allah guards the heavens using the angels from the jinn who come and try to snatch information. So those jinn, they cast shooting stars and meteors, blazing, firing meteors against those devils that try to penetrate the heavens to hear the information. So Allah has used the angels as the guardians of the heavens. So who are their equivalents upon the earth? They are the people of Hadith, the likes of Ahmed. Qutaybah bin Sa'id, as Imam al-Lalaka'i said, that Qutaybah bin Sa'id rahimahullah, who was a contemporary and a companion of Imam Ahmed, who died in 240, he said, if you see a man loving the people of Hadith, Ahlul Hadith, the likes of Yahya bin Sa'id, who died in 143. I think that should be Yahya bin Ma'in, Allahu A'lam. And Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, who died in 198. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the Imam. And Ishaq bin Rahuya, who died in 238. If you see a man loving them, and then he mentioned another group of scholars, he said that know that he is upon the Sunnah. And whomsoever opposes them, then know that he is a mubtadi'. Know that he's a mubtadi'. Actually brings to mind when a group of people came to Ibn Uthaymeen to criticize Sheikh Rabi'. So they said to Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, and they asked him about Sheikh Rabi'. He said, I will say to you what Imam Ahmed said to those who came to him asking about Ishaq bin Rahuya, who was a companion of Imam Ahmed, died 3 years before Imam Ahmed in 238, a great Imam, Ishaq bin Ibrahim al-Rahuya. He said, I will say to you what Imam Ahmed said to the people when they came asking Imam Ahmed about Ishaq bin Rahuya. Imam Ahmed said, the likes of me is asked about Ishaq bin Rahuya, rather it is Ishaq who should be asked about me. Because this is how the scholars of Hadith are. They will not allow criticism and revilement of the people of Sunnah. And this was the love between Ibn Uthaymeen and Sheikh Rabi'. Ibn Uthaymeen would not accept any criticism against Sheikh Rabi'. Till this day, no matter how much they try to formulate accusations against Sheikh Rabi', bring us. What are you going to bring us? Bin Baz? You can't. Because Sheikh Rabi' lived in the era of Sheikh bin Baz. And they knew him, and he knew them. And he lived through the era of Ibn Uthaymeen, and Al-Albani, and Muqbil, and Muhammad Aman al-Jami, and others from the scholars. And all of them praised Sheikh Rabi', because they knew the caliber of this man. Because Sheikh Rabi' is an Imam of the Sunnah. But like Imam Ahmed in his time, and Muhammad bin Yahya al-Dhuhli, likewise in that time, and likewise Al-Barbahari or Ibn Battah or Ibn Taymiyyah. Then in this era, as we mentioned Al-Albani, we mentioned Bin Baz, we mentioned Muqbil, we mentioned Ibn Taymiyyah. Then today we have Rabi' bin Hadi al-Madkhali, and we have Salih al-Fawzan, and we have Ubayd bin Abdullah al-Jabari, we have Sheikh al-Luhaydan. The caliber of these men, these are men who stand steadfast. If you cannot stand like them, then make dua for them and aid them. If you cannot aid them, then at least do not criticize them. And do not criticize those who are with them. Ali bin Khalaf, he said, I heard Al-Humaydi who died in 219, he said, as long as I remain in the Hijaz and Ahmad ibn Hanbal remains in Iraq and Ishaq bin Rahuya remains in Khurasan, no one will overcome us. 3 men. If these 3 men, he said, so long as we remain where we are, no one will overcome Ahlul Hadith. Ahmad bin Sinan al-Qattan died in 259. He said, there is not in the world an innovator except that he hates the people of Hadith. So when he innovates, the sweetness of Hadith is stripped from his heart. So no one loves Ahmad, my brothers and sisters, and his companions, and the Imams of Sunnah in every age, except a person of Sunnah. And no one hates them except an innovator, or a munafiq, or a zindiq. These are the Imams of the Sunnah, the inheritors of the Prophets. Who would hate them except a person with a disease in his heart? It reached a stage whereby if a person wished to make apparent his love of the Sunnah and his adherence to it, he would proclaim his love for Imam Ahmad. And the people would test each other with Imam Ahmad and with the scholars similar to him. So Allah raised Imam Ahmad and honored him, even through his companions and students and the students of these students, and all those Imams who took to his path and were inspired by him. So whenever it was said, these are the companions of Ahmad, it evoked in the hearts love and respect and veneration of them. It would be said, these are the companions, these are the ashab of Ahmad. And what they intended is, these are Ahlul Hadith, these are Ahlul Sunnah. They enjoin the good, they forbid the evil. And their names became widespread in the arena of Qaaidah and Sunnah. These were the Hanabila and the students of Ahmad. And it is strange that there are those who criticize and belittle and mock us for following the way of Imam Ahmad and the companions of Ahmad and the Imams of the Salaf. So what were the students and the companions of Ahmad doing except following him in his steadfastness upon the Sunnah? It was Ibn Warraq, rahimahullah, who rightly stated, if you see a person speaking against the companions of Imam Ahmad, then suspect him, for he is an evil person and he is not upon the Sunnah. It was mentioned to the Khalifa, Amir al-Mu'mineen al-Mutawakkil, ala Allah, who died in 246. He was the one who gave honor to Imam Ahmad and respected him. After the death of Imam Ahmad, it was reported in the Tabaqatul Hanabila volume 1 that some of the companions of Imam Ahmad, it was said to Al-Mutawakkil that some of the companions, meaning some of the students of Imam Ahmad, they have gone to rebuke Ahlul Bid'ah and to refute them. And controversy has arisen as a result of that between them. Why? Because they went to refute them, enjoin the good, forbid the evil, establish the Sunnah. So he said to the person who brought him the news, the Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Khalifa al-Mutawakkil, he said, do not bring me any news concerning them again. Unleash their hands and aid them, for indeed they and their companion, meaning Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, they are the masters and the chiefs of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Meaning, don't hold them back. Rather, your job is not to complain about them, but rather to aid them and to support them. This was Al-Mutawakkil. So you compare Al-Mutawakkil to Al-Mu'tasim. Al-Mu'tasim beats him and lashes him up until the skin tears from his back. And Al-Mutawakkil honors him and reveres him to the extent that he will not allow anyone to speak against Imam Ahmad. Allah guides whom He wills, my brothers and sisters, and sends astray whom He wills. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us upon correct guidance. Those who attack, my brothers and sisters, the people of Hadith and Salafiyah, who emulate the Salaf, and they follow the likes of Imam Ahmad and his companions and those who came before them, and they criticize them and they belittle them and they mock them, they are the evildoers. And no one opposes the A'immah of the Salaf except a makhdhul, a betrayer who forsakes the people of truth. And that's why Qutayba bin Sa'id said what he said. If you see a man loving Ahlul Hadith, and then he named who he named, Yahya bin Sa'id, Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Ishaq bin Rahuya, know that he's a person of Sunnah if you find a man loving them. Likewise today, if you find a man loving Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan, Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad, Rabi bin Hadi al-Madkhali, Ubayd bin Abdullah al-Jabri, Ahmad bin Yahya al-Najmi, Zayd bin Hadi al-Madkhali, Al-Luhaydan, Ibn Uthaymeen, Al-Albani and their likes, know that he's a person of Sunnah. If you find a person reviling a single one of them, then know that he is a person of innovation and misguidance and mubtadi'. Just like Qutayba bin Sa'id said, know that whomsoever opposes him, then he is a sahib bid'ah, or he is a mubtadi'. Muhammad bin Yahya al-Azdi said, indeed we speak with the sayings of Abu Abdullah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, for he is our Imām, and he is the remainder of the believers. And we do not oppose him, and we are well pleased with him as an Imām, and we are free from anyone who opposes him, for indeed no one opposes him except a mubtadi', an innovator, and a makhdhul, a betrayer of the haqq. This is what we say about the one who speaks against Al-Albani. This is what we say about the one who speaks against Muqbil. This is what we say about the one who speaks against Bin Baz and Ibn Uthaymeen and Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan and Rabi and Luhaydan and Abdul Muhsin. Why? Because this is what they said in that time. So we say the same in this time. Because the scholars are known in their eras. It's easy to say, who you with? I'm with Malik. Who you with today? Who are the Jama'ah today? Name them. Name us your men. And we will judge you. And we will decide whether you're a person of haqq. If you find them squirming when you mention Sheikh Rabi', then have shak in him. If you find them squirming when you mention Sheikh Muqbil, then doubt him. If you find them squirming when you mention Sheikh al-Fawzan or Sheikh al-Albani, then know that these are people in which there is doubt, at the very least. And if they revile them, then know that they are innovators. Because no one reviles the people of Hadith and people of Sunnah except a mubtadi' or a zindiq. And we are not shy in saying that, because that's what our Salaf used to say. Too harsh? Then Ahmad is too harsh for you. Too harsh? Ibn Mubarak is too harsh for you. Too harsh? Fudail is too harsh for you. Bukhari is too harsh for you. Maybe Muhammad Ilyas Kandahlawi is your type. And Tablighi Jamaat. Because the people of Sunnah, they don't compromise. It is Ikhwan and Tabligh and the Murji'ah. They are the ones who compromise the haqq. Ibn al-Banna, in the final paragraph, Ibn al-Banna reports with his chain of narration in Ar-Rad al-Mubtadi'ah. He said, there is not amongst the companions of Imam Ahmad a single weak person. How can there be? He's your teacher. If he's the sheikh and these are his students, then how can there be a weak person amongst them? Because they're following their sheikh, Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Every one of them, he said, was strong. So it is upon you, my brothers and sisters, to fear Allah with respect to Ahlul Sunnah. Those who carry the Sunnah and aid the Sunnah. Those who respect the Sunnah. And likewise, respect the students of the scholars. Respect the students of Rabi' bin Hadi al-Madkhali. Respect the students of Sheikh bin Baz and Sheikh al-Albani. Those who hold on to what al-Albani and bin Baz and Ibn Uthaymeen and Muqbil and Rabi' were upon. If they go astray, just like we mentioned the example of Bishr al-Marisi. After sitting with Ibn Uyayna, he went astray. After sitting with Hammad ibn Salama, he went astray. These are not the deviants that we are talking about. And you have their modern day equivalents. Those who criticize the students of Sheikh Rabi'. And they say, you can't take from Sheikh Rabi' because he's affected by his students. What kind of a man do you think Rabi' is? Because that's what they said. That's what they said about Imam Ahmad. In fact, it was said that the students, they said that the students have affected Imam Ahmad. And this is kadhib. This is kadhib, my brothers and sisters. So if a person himself is too weak to stand up, then do not aid the enemies in opposing the people of Sunnah. Say, I am not able to be like Fulan and Fulan from the students of Sheikh Rabi'a, and from the students of Sheikh Al-Albani, or from the students of Sheikh bin Baz. I'm not able to be like them, but I am with them. I am with them. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by His beautiful names and His lofty attributes, that He makes myself and yourselves from those who aid the deen of Allah, that He establishes and makes us and you steadfast upon the sunnah of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala utilizes myself and yourself in calling to the haqq and aiding it and remaining steadfast